You're watching Race to Power. I'm Shreya Upadhyay. On the show tonight, we get you the latest from Bangladesh. Remember, today was the deadline for filing nominations. And as expected, BNP's Tariq Rahman filed his nomination from 2 seats. On the other hand, Jamaat and its ally NCP are having trouble sticking together. A look at what's happening on that front. We also talk about the Myanmar elections, which will have a deep security impact on India. It's a tightly controlled election with the military junta calling the shots, even as Aung San Suu Kyi remains absent from polls being conducted for the first time since the coup against her. All of this up ahead, but first, let's tell you more from Bangladesh. As the 12th of February 2026 nears, all eyes are on the electoral battle in Bangladesh. The deadline for filing nominations ended today, and as per the country's election commission, a total of 3,144 nominations papers were collected, but only 166 were submitted until yesterday, and the last-minute rush continued today. Those numbers still haven't come in. The country's largest Islamist party, the Jamaat-e-Islami, announced a seat-sharing agreement with the student-led National Citizen Party, or the NCP, following marathon talks on Sunday. Jamaat has formed a 10-party seat-sharing agreement, which includes the Liberal Democratic Party, or the LDP, led by Colonel Oli Ahmad, and the NCP, led by Nahid Islam. The alliance was announced at a press conference by Jamaat leader Shafiqur Rahman, who was accompanied by Colonel Ahmad and senior leaders of 8 other allied parties. Interestingly, the Jamaat chief stated that the NCP leaders could not join them due to lack of time. But the reality may be quite different. Many student leaders have opposed the alliance with Jamaat, citing domination by fringe Islamist political parties, most of whom held only a handful of seats in previous parliaments. Ahead of the tie-up with Jamaat, at least 30 NCP members wrote to party chief Nahid Islam opposing the plan to join hands. They stated that the ideals of Jamaat contradicted the democratic values of the NCP. In fact, not just in words, several NCP leaders have quit the party as well, majority of them being women. Tasneem Jara, who was looking to run on an NCP ticket, quit last Saturday. The next day, another aspiring candidate, Tasnuva Jabin, also quit. Meanwhile, senior party figure Samantha Sharmin issued a warning over a social media post. She said that the party would pay a high price for its alliance with Islamists. Several other women in the NCP have withdrawn from party activities until the elections in a mark of protest against the alliance with Jamaat. Now, jumping into the electoral fight is the BNP acting chairperson Tariq Rahman and his daughter Zaima, who registered themselves as voters. Both father and daughter were registered as voters in the Dhaka 17 constituency. In fact, Tariq Rahman filed his nomination from Dhaka 17 and the Bogura 6 constituencies, 2 seats. There are also reports suggesting that Khalida Zia's granddaughter Zaima is likely to contest the upcoming elections, although there is no confirmation so far. The BNP acting chief also collected the nomination papers of his ill mother, former Prime Minister Khalida Zia. Her nomination papers were submitted to the Election Commission for the Dinajpur 3 constituency. Khalida Zia, remember, who returned from the UK in May, remains in extremely critical condition after being hospitalized on the 23rd of November. All right, let's shift our focus now to Myanmar. 5 years after the ouster of the democratically elected government, Myanmar is holding elections under the junta rule. The first phase of the election is over, with 2 more to go. But the overall questions on the sanctity of these elections remain. Remember, polling began on Sunday in military-controlled areas, but voter turnout remained on the lower side. The entire process is facing sharp criticism. United Nations has condemned these elections due to violence, arrests, and the ban on Aung San Suu Kyi's political party. According to the UN report, Myanmar's military junta has carried out an unprecedented crackdown on politicians. Around 30,000 political opponents have been arrested since the 2021 military coup. Now, this crackdown intensified in the run-up to the elections. Nearly 200 people are facing charges of obstructing and opposing elections. Meanwhile, Aung San Suu Kyi's son has criticized these elections as well. He's called the elections a scam and accused that only dictators are supporting it. Kemaris also urged the world leaders to shun the junta elections. Lack of trust also persists amongst the locals. Some communities have boycotted the entire process, while some say they are not interested and don't expect much from the elections.
I do not expect anything from the election. It doesn't really cross my mind. They, the junta, are holding elections by themselves. I am not that interested in it.
We have been living under a dictatorship. I don't expect much from these elections. Even if they do hold elections, I don't think anything good will come from them, because they always lie.
Remember, the military is still unable to control vast areas of the territory. Armed struggle is underway across Myanmar. The next two phases will take place on the 11th and the 25th of January next year. Out of the 330 townships, 265 will be holding elections. The rest are considered too unstable to hold elections as civil war still continues there. The junta promised a return to democratic governance, but it has chosen to publicly back one political party. Promises contradicting action has created a doubt on a free and transparent election mandate. All right, let's try and understand the elections that are happening currently in Myanmar. I'm joined by Nathan Paul Sutton. He's a well-known columnist. He's joining us live from Glasgow in Scotland. Nathan, good evening. Welcome to WION. I want to start by asking you what you think of these elections in Myanmar. Some are calling it a scam. Some say that, look, this is needed. It might be a quasi-civilian government, but it still is needed to make sure that some sort of electoral process is carried out in the country.
Well, it's who that's needed for, who that's going to benefit. And when we say that it's needed, it is in a sense needed for the Tatmadaw. So the Myanmar military government want to use these elections to show the rest of the world that they have done this bare minimum level of trying to adhere to some kind of democratic norm. With that, then countries like the United States can begin to make arrangements with Myanmar. They can begin to work with them. They can begin to extract rare earth minerals from the country, and trade can begin. And there's already been sanctions lifted against several key figures in the regime this year from the US. So it's not just about the US. It's a signal to the whole world that we're doing just enough to show that we're moving towards democracy, so that maybe sanctions can be lifted and we can begin to do some kind of business in Myanmar. But it means nothing for the people who are going to be stuck in endless conflict, and for the people who are going through endless detention and torture from regime, and the enormous amount of human rights abuses that the junta will continue to wage on the country.
You know, Nathan, I get your point. I get what you're saying, that this is just, a display of some sort of democratic process being carried out in the garb of, elections. But there are parties like the PDF, People's Defense Forces, who are backed by NLD, which is Aung San Suu Kyi's party. Do you not think that such parties can make a difference? Yes, the large part of control in Myanmar is with the military junta and their backed party, USDP, they've already claimed victory, in fact, after the first phase of elections. But do you not think smaller parties like the PDF can make a difference?
There's opportunities for different democratic voices to be influential in the country, but there is no space whatsoever allowed by the Tatmadaw to allow for those smaller democratic voices to actually have any form of influence in the state if they are in any way critical of the government. So it's not a situation where it's just the NLD are banned. There's another 40 parties that have been banned at the same time. And this goes kind of across the board around Southeast Asia right now, where there's a growing totalitarianism, there's a growing destruction of democracy, and the way that they are doing that, whether it's Cambodia or whether it's Thailand, they are taking some political parties, banning them, but then allowing others to remain that are less critical. So the dictatorship theme remains in place, but there's just enough in place to say that this is still democracy, because some of the smaller parties are technically still able to be there and could potentially have a voice when they, in fact, never will be able to actually say anything in opposition to the Tamdao.
So Nathan, when you say that there are countries who are looking at business and trying to extract minerals and resources from Myanmar, there is the West, the US, which is calling it as sham elections. There's a country like China, which is backing these elections clearly to protect its own strategic interests. India, of course, has said that we do want a stable Myanmar. It is in our interest, but we've also got a concern of cross-border infiltration happening. Where do you think, in which country do you think would benefit the most from this kind of a process taking place?
So like you said, I mean, China and Russia already have their relationships in Myanmar. India as well, to a different extent, have those existing arrangements in the country. I think the countries that would really benefit from this sham democratic process taking place would be someone like the United States. Trump has made it quite clear that he's very, very interested in the rare earth minerals in Myanmar. Myanmar is the third biggest producer of rare earth minerals on the planet. Most of those minerals are in Kachin state, and this would mean that Trump would either have to make arrangements with the KIA, the rebel group operating there, or with the Tatmadaw. And if they do some kind of election, it means that the sanctions can begin to be released over time. They can find more excuses to say that they're making amends towards democracy, and then with that allows someone like Trump to start negotiating directly with the Myanmar military regime rather than having to negotiate with rebel groups, which would allow them to then use things like tariffs and sanctions as leverage so they can get good deals on the minerals inside the country.
Okay. All right. Let's wait and watch how the next two phases go. And of course, what really happens post these elections, whether there is some sort of stability, if not a democratically elected civilian government in the country. We'll leave it there. Nathan, thank you very much for joining us on WION and sharing your perspective. All right, moving on, two popular leaders have formed an alliance ahead of the parliamentary elections in Nepal. The alliance will challenge Nepal's older parties, which have dominated the country's politics for over 3 decades now. Rapper turned Kathmandu mayor Balendra Shah has joined the Rashtriya Swatantrata Party, led by a former TV host turned politician Rabi Lamichhane. Under this agreement, Balendra Shah, also known as Balin, has been named the parliamentary party leader and the prime ministerial face of the alliance. Meanwhile, the RSP chief, Lamichhane, continues as the party president. Balin has agreed to carry forward the agenda of the youth movement that emerged in September 2025. Balin first, remember, gained attention through Nepal's underground hip-hop scene, using sharply political tracks such as Balidan, Maobadi Lal, Salam and Hami Yuva to take aim at corruption, inequality and state apathy. This was long before he entered public office. That criticism led to credibility and later translated into electoral success. He won the 2022 Kathmandu mayoral election as an independent, defeating candidates backed by Nepal's major parties. During the post-protest transition, he also played a role in facilitating an interim political arrangement under Sushila Karki aimed at stabilizing the system. Now, according to media reports, Balendra Shah has repeatedly criticized India, often calling for Nepal to reduce its dependence on its southern neighbor. He's taken a strong stand on long-standing India-Nepal border disputes as well, such as the Kalapani-Lipulekh issue. Balin has also accused India of interfering in Nepal's domestic politics. At the same time, he has not expressed support for China, and there are no signs of him adopting a pro-China position either. Our correspondent Saloni Murarka sent us this report from Kathmandu. Take a look.
Nepal's political landscape is seeing some major changes ahead of the March elections, with Rashtriya Swatantrata Party emerging as a key challenger to the country's traditional political force. The party has struck a deal with Kathmandu Mayor Balendra Shah, and as per the agreement, Rabi Lamichhane will continue as a party president, while Balendra Shah will be the prime ministerial candidate. Many of the party leaders believe that this alliance will broaden their support, with Lamichane's voter base around the women and migrant communities, and with Bolin's influence in the younger generation educated community. With elections approaching, this contest is shaping up to be a battle between the established political force and a new generation of leaders trying and seeking to change Nepal's political future. I'm Saloni Murarkar reporting for WION from Kathmandu, Nepal.
New York will witness two iconic moments as it enters 2026. The famous ball drop at Times Square and the inauguration of the city's first Muslim mayor. Democrat socialist Zohran Mamdani is all set to take oath as the New York mayor at the midnight hour on New Year's Eve. Sharing the stage with him will be a veteran Democrat socialist, Bernie Sanders. The ceremony will take place at City Hall in Lower Manhattan area. Lethia James, Attorney General of the New York City, will administer the oath of office, where Mamdani will take a vow to uphold the American Constitution, New York State Constitution, and the Charter of NYC. At the high-stakes transition event, Bernie Sanders, who's a native of Brooklyn, is a staunch socialist. He will also be present. When Democrat heavyweight Andrew Cuomo launched a campaign against Mamdani, Bernie Sanders held his hand. Mamdani has praised Bernie's role in inspiring him for launching a bid for the New York City mayor. Both men share the view that the government should represent working people and not just the high-income individuals.
What a politician!
I didn't know he was going to show up. He finally did show up.
All right, I'm going to be saying that you're inspiring the entire world. How's that?
A little pressure.
A little brush up. There's truth to it. No. There is a reason why the whole bloody world is watching this election.
Remember, 84-year-old Bernie Sanders is a senator from Vermont. He has tried his luck on presidency as well. Sanders ran for a Democratic presidential ticket in 2016 and 2020, but could not get past Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. Now he says Zohran Mamdani will lead the way for the Democrats. Mamdani is taking office amid pragmatism around his poll promises. Remember, popular themes of his campaign were freeze the rent, childcare for all, and fast and free buses. Now he faces the challenge to fulfill this in one of the most expensive cities of the world. Keeping with updates from America, the Trump administration has questioned the HR policies of diversity and inclusion at major American companies, including Google and Verizon. The move has exacerbated concerns about the future of corporate DEI programs in the United States. According to a report by the Wall Street Journal, the U.S. Justice Department has issued demands for documents and information as part of probes into workplace practices at several large corporations. Google and Verizon are among the companies said to have received requests, with investigations focusing on how diversity, equity, and inclusion programs are used in recruitment, promotion, and employment decisions. The probes are being conducted under the U.S. False Claims Act, a federal civil law that is usually used to recover state funds lost due to fraud or false representations made by companies doing business with the government. The Wall Street Journal report stated that the investigations span multiple sectors, including automotive, pharmaceuticals, defense, and utilities. It concerns companies doing business with the federal government. Remember, this move comes after President Donald Trump returned to office in January this year and quickly took steps to dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion programs across the federal government. Trump ordered the removal of diversity officers from federal agencies and directed the withdrawal of grant funding for a range of DEI-related initiatives. Critics have said the investigations could have a chilling effect on corporate hiring practices and workplace inclusion. In a significant setback for the Netanyahu government, Israel's Supreme Court has suspended a government decision to shut down the country's decades-old and widely listened to military radio station, Galai Tzahal. In an interim order issued late Sunday, the Supreme Court President Isaac Amit said that the suspension was partly because the government did not provide a clear commitment not to take irreversible steps before the court reaches a final decision. He also added that Attorney General Gali Baharav Miara supported the suspension of the government's move. Last week, remember, the Israeli cabinet had approved the closure of Galei Tzahal, with the shutdown scheduled to take effect before 1st of March next year. Founded in 1950, Galei Tzahal is widely known for its flagship news programs and has long been followed by both domestic and foreign correspondents. With a market share of 17.7%, a government audience survey ranks it as Israel's third most listened to radio station. Speaking on the government's move to shut down the army radio, Prime Minister Netanyahu said that there had been repeated proposals over the years to remove the station from the military, abolish it, or privatize it. Netanyahu said that a military-owned radio station is a concept found in countries such as North Korea, and that Israel certainly does not want to be counted among those.
Today, we are following the proposal of the Minister of Defense to cancel Galei Tzahal, a military station that broadcasts under the leadership of the army, a station that exists in North Korea and maybe a few other countries we certainly don't want to be counted among.
Remember, the government's legal advisor, Baharav Miara, had opposed the move and warned that closing the station raised concerns about possible political interference in public broadcasting. She had added that it poses questions regarding an infringement on freedom of expression and of the press. Meanwhile, Defense Minister Israel Katz had termed the radio station broadcast as political and divisive content, which does not align with military values. Katz also argued that a military-run radio station serving the general public is an anomaly in democratic countries. Condemning the government's move to shut down the radio operations, opposition leader Yair Lapid has called it part of the government's effort to suppress freedom of expression ahead of the parliamentary elections next year. Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that he will seek another term as Prime Minister.
This is part of an overall attack on the media, on freedom of speech in an election year. This is part of what is happening here in the Knesset and in the Communications Committee, that they will not stop at Galatz.
All right, shifting our focus now to India, where the Unnao rape case took a fresh turn today after the Supreme Court stayed the Delhi High Court's judgment suspending the life sentence of politician Kuldeep Singh Sengar. As a result, the former Bharatiya Janata Party lawmaker from the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh will remain longer in jail. The Supreme Court's order came on an appeal filed by the Central Bureau of Investigation on the 23rd of December. Remember, the Delhi High Court provided relief to Kuldeep Sengar, reasoning that the former BJP MLA cannot be given a life sentence as he does not qualify as a public servant under India's law on sexual offences against minors. It also noted that the convict had been incarcerated for 7 years and 5 months. During the hearing today, the CBI highlighted the horrific nature of the case. It cited that the survivor was less than 16 years old when she was raped. Tushar Mehta, the second highest law officer of India, stressed that life sentence is the minimum punishment looking at the facts of the case. He also contended that Kuldeep Singh Sengar should be deemed a public servant as he held a dominant position over the survivor owing to his status as a powerful lawmaker. Now let's break down the Supreme Court's order for you. Agreeing with the CBI's arguments, a bench comprising Chief Justice of India Surya Kant, Justices J.K. Maheshwari and Augustine George Massey held that substantial questions of law need to be examined. It also flagged the fact that Kuldeep Sengar is already incarcerated as he is serving a 10-year sentence for the custodial death of the survivor's father. The court also made it clear that the survivor can get free legal aid and can file a separate petition in this matter. Remember, this order was welcomed by the survivor's mother, who reiterated that her daughter should get justice. She called for the convict to be given the death sentence.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट का बहुत धन्यवाद करी था सर। बच्ची के लिए क्या मांग कर रहे हैं? बच्ची के लिए यह मांग कर रहे हैं उनको सीधा फांसी होए।
Meanwhile, the survivor's family has faced severe intimidation at the behest of Kuldeep Sengar since 2017 when he was accused of rape. He was held responsible for the death of the survivor's father in police custody back in 2018. The former BJP lawmaker also came under the scanner in 2019 as the survivor's car was hit by a lorry, causing a fatal crash. She and her lawyer were seriously injured, whereas two of her aunts were killed. All right, with that, it's a wrap on Race to Power, but news and updates will continue. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Bye-bye.
India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
Thank you very much for joining us on WION The World is One. We are glad you're watching. We are live on WION The World is One. Time now for fine print. American Joker, the headlines. Russian President Vladimir Putin says troops are confidently advancing in Ukraine. This has held a pre-New Year meeting with top military officials who reported that forces have taken control of over 6,000